Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place to discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Join me once again, my co-host Tocayo. After that Venezuela-Mexico match, Adrian, how you doing, man?
I'm doing. I'm gonna save my emotions and my candor for later on the episode, but I'm just doing. Just doing.
Well, I mean, if you guys were watching it as well, you guys know Mexico lost 1-0 to Venezuela there in Los Angeles in SoFi Stadium. Second match of Group B in Copa America for Mexico. Mexico now stands with 3 points. Venezuela 6 points after Ecuador's win over Jamaica. They have 3 points, and Jamaica sits at 0. So that leaves Mexico in a very precarious position where they have to win against Ecuador. A draw does not suffice because of goal differential. So Mexico has to win against Ecuador, and hope Jamaica pull up an upset and they beat Venezuela by enough goals so that Mexico is able to take first place and avoid Argentina. But a lot has to happen for that to happen. Let's kind of go into this, man, because I know you have a lot to talk about, and I have a lot to talk about this performance from Mexico here. Adrian, start us off with Jaime's 11.
Sure. Just like we said on our previous episode, not a lot of changes in here. Similar formation 4-2-3-1 that we saw against Jamaica. The back four, same ones: Gerardo Arteaga, Johan Vázquez, Cesar Montes, and Jorge Sanchez, Julio González at the goal. Sorry. Then you had Luis Chavez, Luis Romo. The big difference here is that, of course, Edson Alvarez is not here, so Luis Romo is playing. And I believe last match he started with Orbelin Pineda, and in this case he started with Charlie Rodriguez as a central attacking midfielder, right? Luis Chavez having more of a central midfielder role, with Romo taking the defensive duties on this match. Then you had Orlando Antuna and Julian Quiñones at the wings, and up front, Santiago Jimenez as the lone striker.
Before we analyze, really, I want to give my first impressions, and I want you to give your first impressions, get your thoughts on this. But I think the first half started well for Mexico. I think, in my opinion, going back to look at what Jaime has done with Mexico since he took over, I think that was Mexico's one of, if not their best performance, 45 minutes under jimmylozano tenure. They were dominant, they were fluid, they were making chances, they were opening the Venezuelan defense up, playing Antuna on the right, Quiñones on the left. They generated chances. They couldn't finish, but they dominated that first half, I think. Second half, a completely different Mexico showed up. A Mexico, without any confidence, a Mexico who ceded the ball away to Venezuela. Venezuela dominated, until they scored the goal, and a little after, until maybe minute 75, when Mexico started feeling the pressure and started saying, "Hey, we need that goal." But it was night and day difference between the two halves for Mexico.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you. During the first few, okay, not the first few, but the pretty much entirety of the first half, it was Mexico dominating Venezuela in all aspects of the game. Right, they were handling more possession, they were having more shots on target than Venezuela. They looked way more dangerous than Venezuela. It just felt that they were controlling the match and things were going at the pace that Mexico wanted to play the match. And it was nice to see Cesar Montes, at a good level. I think that helped Mexico feel confident and very comfortable at the very beginning, just because they were essentially keeping at bay Soteldinho and Salomonrondon, who are the two most dangerous players in Venezuela. So it just seemed that it was just a matter of time before Mexico was able to, reflect that dominance on the score. On the second half, I would like to think that perhaps losing Cesar Montes was a moral hit for the team in other ways, because right out the bat, you could see that Venezuela flipped the script and turned on the Jets, right? They were on the offensive, looking significantly dangerous, taking advantage of all the mistakes that Jorge Sanchez and Israel Reyes were making on transitions to the offensive drives. Hell, there were a couple of plays before the penalty where Jorge Sanchez either was not in the correct position, therefore allowing Venezuela to either regain control of the ball or cut his passes with ease. And then you also had Israel Reyes, who, with Jimmylozano, has been, well, at least for the last couple of matches, or the matches that he has played with Jimmylozano, he was at right back. And it looked like he wanted to play as a right back instead of being the right center back, as he should have. And there was one specific play where Julio González passes the ball to him and he's just not in the correct position. He tries to catch up with the ball, loses possession, and then here comes, a counterattack from Venezuela. So very, very, very shaky on that second half. Don't even get me started on the fact that for Julian Quiñones, I don't know what happened with this guy. I feel that he just felt that he was wearing a Tigres shirt again and playing under Tuca because the freaking rackets on his feet came up. El Raquetas Jimenez showed up. And there's no communication between the wingers and the right back, or I guess the fullbacks, in terms of defending on offensive drives, on attacking on attacking on defense, right? Or defense and attack, whatever you want to call it. The fact that he had to come in and support Gerardo Arteaga, he always looked messy. He always looked out of position. He always looked like he didn't know what to do, and he is the one that caused the penalty. So I don't know if this was a request from Jimmylozano to provide more coverage for Gerardo Arteaga, because Gerardo Arteaga was moving up a lot and providing support on the front, and therefore Julian Quiñones being the power the workhorse that he is, being able to play the entire pitch. It just didn't help at the very end, And on the other side, same thing. Ariel Antuna looked lost whenever trying to cover for Jorge Sanchez. He wasn't even producing anything out in front. Alexis Vega was, pretty much inexistent in this match. Very uneventful. The biggest thing that he did was shove another Venezuelan player, right? And
got the yellow card. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. That was pretty much it. Just a difficult match to watch in the second half. That penalty, granted, if you want to say that the referee was super strict on, the call, okay, I can see it. I'm not going to argue that it wasn't a penalty, because I think, given the rules and VAR and whatever, at the how CONMEBOL referees are, they're going to call it out, even if it's an accidental slide or an accidental clash between the legs of players. I don't think the referees are to blame here in any way possible. Venezuela understood the weakness on that specific area, and they took advantage of it. So I don't think we should be blaming the referees in any way possible this time.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask different people, you get different opinions on that penalty. Was it a soft penalty? Maybe, but in my opinion, I think it was still a penalty. Just like you said, based off the laws of the game there, how there was contact. And like, I agree that there was the penalty for Mexico was a penalty as well. Before we kind of start analyzing player specifics, I want to kind of jump back to something you mentioned. You mentioned Uriel Antuna, Quiñones, and Santigimenez up top. You were talking specifically about Quiñones and Antuna when they had a cover in the back, but I want to talk about them playing up front, just because they looked very, like you said, not communicative, very not on the same page. That's what I'm trying to say. Every time they would show either Quiñones, Antuna, or Santi, they just looked desperate. They looked like not fatigued, but they looked just like frustrated. Frustrated was the word I'm looking for. That they just could not get it going. And we saw. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Santiago Jimenez, who missed that goal in the first half. What can you say about him? Is it time to go with Memote? Is it time to change the strategy here?
I believe so, man. I think it's time for Jimmylozano to look at an alternative. It isn't working with Santigimenez, and I don't think it's Jimenez's fault, right, at all. I think it's maybe perhaps like a 70-30 situation where he is a 30% that is not working, and the rest of it being Jimmylozano tactics, right? I mean, there was a couple. We keep on saying this. He is a finisher. His best game is it's inside the box and doing the last touch of the play, right? And Jimmylozano keeps forcing him to be this post, keeps forcing him to provide, open up spaces and provide game to the wingers, which he's unable to do that. We saw a couple of instances where he tried to carry the ball up front and, dribble past through a couple of defenders. But at the end, he's not that kind of player. He doesn't have that skill. He doesn't have that talent. I'm not saying he's not a good player. What I'm saying is he doesn't shine under those specific circumstances.
Yeah, taking players on.
Exactly.
Right. He's a finisher. He's a deadly
yes.
finisher, but he's not a Neymar that's going to beat you with a juke or anything.
100%, man. 100%. And then also, he doesn't have the strongest aerial game. So the fact that Antuna and Julian Quiñones were crossing balls left and right, what are they doing? Who are they throwing those balls to? Like, most of the time, they were going to no one, or Santigimenez was completely covered. Are you not lifting your head and realizing that there's no one for you in the box to freaking cross the ball to? And that goes to that is a good cross reference to your argument, or your point of consideration is that is a great example of how they're not communicating to with each other, how they're not in sync or on the same page as to what is the best option for the three of them to inflict damage on the opposition. Yeah, it's a difficult pill to swallow, It's a difficult decision to make right now, just because we know that Santigimenez is perhaps the Mexican player with the highest ceiling at the moment, but it isn't working.
It isn't working under Jimmy Lozano. Not to say it wouldn't work under another coach, but just the way Jimmy Lozano plays, it doesn't contribute well or line up well to Santi's play style. Um, but it does line up well, I think, with Memote Martinez's play style. He came in for the last 15 minutes, and that last 15-20 minute cameo was when Mexico looked the most dangerous. I was texting you, man, the goal's gonna land now. It never landed, but Mexico had, Memote plays that post well. That role that Jimmy wants. He's the aerial guy, the tall guy, the strong guy that can hold up play. I don't know how many aerial balls he won in that 10-15 minute cameo, but it was a good amount. And because of that, they were those balls that were ultimately wasted on Santigimenez that would go over his head, out of bounds. Were getting chances to get rebounded off Memote and then find somebody else's foot. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think it might be time against Ecuador when you need the win. Start Memote. Or change your tactics. Why, you're down 1-0 in the 65th, 70th minute. Why do you take Santiago Jimenez out? Why don't you take out, I don't know, a midfielder or, a center back or something? Play with two number nines. Just go all out attack. Try to get that result. I don't know. We haven't seen Jimmy play like that, but I guess he just didn't want to get, caught on the counter.
Well, I mean, I think he's just out of his depth, dude. In this case, I mean, he's unable to adapt, and as much as he wants to keep on playing with this 4-2-3-1 formation, and play from the very back all the way to the front, touching, not realizing that he doesn't have the players to follow that strategy. He has the players to park the bus and counterattack, because you have some decent pace players. You have players who have that ability to adapt to that specific situation. One thing that I want to add to your Guillermo Martinez and Monte Martinez point is that out of the 3 aerial duels that he had, he won 2. So it just goes to show that he is perhaps the piece that Jimmy Lozano is looking to have in Santigimenez, but for some reason he chooses to go with Santi over Remote. I don't know if it's a call from his boss saying like, "Hey man, you gotta play him because we have to make him the go-to player for Mexico in the next World Cup cycle or whatever the case may be." But yeah, it's he needs to do something different at this point in time. Is like, there's why you don't have anything left to lose. Just freaking go all in, dude. Go all in, as you said. Take someone out, put 2 strikers in, go 4-2-4. Screw it, because at this point in time, if you lose by 3-1 or 2-0 or freaking 3-0, whatever the case may be, you're still losing. Doesn't matter. Go all about it. Try to freaking tie the match and see if you can win it. Right?
Yeah. And that kind of brings back a point, earlier this summer, you and I are guilty of this, and a lot of press are guilty of this, calling for Jimmy Lozano to initiate a generational shift. We talked about it when he dropped his lineup, or when he played with Hawaii, how we didn't like that he started 9 out of 11 players as with under 5 caps or whatever, young talent. The generational shift, unless you're Costa Rica, which has no other choice, has to be subtle, where you kind of mix it in with your old experienced players. Is it biting him now that he didn't bring an Irving Lozano or a Henry Martin, somebody that proven players, at least maybe not in the last year or two for Irving Lozano, but I mean Henry Martin, a proven goal scorer in ligamx. Is this hurting him now?
I think so, man. I think so. I really do. Yes, I agree that we said this earlier in the summer that yes, we are happy to see new faces in la selección mexicana. We're happy to see younger players being featured, right? But there's ways to do these things. I think we all are in support of having this generational change, but do it in a way that makes sense. Do it in a way that will help you build up to that full-blown generational change, because you realize that you don't have that much talent to do so. Make sure that you keep veteran players on key positions that will allow you, the younger lads, to elevate their game or have some sort of sense moving forward, right? Some sort of understanding of, okay, these guys, the veteran guys know the style of play that we're trying to implement. They know how to carry on with Jimmy's strategy, right? And I think that trying to protect Santigimenez or guard him or just remove any competition so he can be the starting striker, it's biting Jimmy in the ass, because he knows what kind of style he wants to play, and he knows he needs someone like Henry Martin who has that work rate, who has that specific skill set that he wants on a striker. He's not here, and we can argue that he is definitely maybe 2 or 3 steps better or higher than Memote Martinez in terms of skill and just being an overall rounded false nine or post in this case. I don't know if having Chucky Lozano will make a difference, just because this is something that you and I have discussed before. Is he's been kind of irrelevant since 2018, so I don't know if there's a huge difference between him and Julian Quiñones. But let's give the benefit of the doubt to Irving Lozano. Let's say that he probably could have made a difference, right? He's more of a winger, and Julian Quiñones is more of a sort of a winger that goes inside and plays behind a striker, so or below a striker for that sense. But yeah, man, I mean, and Julio Gonzalez, I mean, what can I say about Julio Gonzalez, right? Guillermo Ochoa, I don't know if Guillermo Ochoa would have saved the penalty, maybe, just because we know that Memo Ochoa.
I'm not blaming Julio Gonzalez on this.
There's nothing.
He stepped up when he needed to.
Exactly. I mean, there's
penalty
nothing,
is 50-50.
Mm-hmm, there's nothing we can say about him. I don't think Ochoa would have made a difference. You can probably make the argument that Edsonalvarez would have made a difference. I don't think that could have been the case. I think we would have seen the same result whether we had those veterans or not. But I think the blow would have been less harmful for Jimmylozano if he would have had those players on his bench or on the pitch.
You mentioned the penalty that Julio Gonzalez saved. Let's talk about the penalty that Orbelin Pineda missed. Obviously, when you're part of a team like eltri, any football team, right? You practice penalties in practice. You have an order. So I'm guessing Orbelin, from the 11 players that were on the field, he was the next guy up, which is interesting to me because Luis Chavez is the free kick taker, right? He's the guy that takes the corners, takes the free kicks, and usually the free kick taker is pretty high up there when it comes to being the penalty guy. Would Luis Chavez have done a better job taking that penalty, or back to Irving Lozano? Had Irving Lozano been there, had Henry Martin been there, is Orbelin your best penalty taker this time? Because that was a dreadful penalty.
It was a dreadful penalty. I think Orbelin Lozano is Orbelin Pineda. I think overall he's supposed to be like a penalty specialist, right? I think at Cruzazul whenever he was at Cruzazul, he was one of the official penalty takers, if not the first one in line, but at least the second one. And I've seen him take penalties for Mexico before. Whenever I don't know, I don't think Edsonalvarez is the one, but whenever Henry Martin wasn't around, or what's his name, Andres Guardado wasn't around. But I don't know if he's the official penalty taker. But I agree with you. If you have someone with a refined, kick like Luis Chavez, wouldn't it make sense for him to take the penalty? And on top of that, he got the captain armband after Montes was subbed off. So,
and Orbelin had just came on; he was cold.
Exactly. Good point. That's a really good point. You're allowing someone who just came in from the bench on a very high intense moment on the pitch of the match to take the penalty shot. What are you talking about? You need someone who has, that calm blood, who's been in the match, who can regulate those emotions, because it's been 80 minutes playing on the match, carrying with that pressure, right? And it was a dreadful penalty technique, man. Just you could tell that he wasn't focused on taking the penalty shot. I hope that he didn't feel that he was, all the weight on his shoulders, but it just looked like he wasn't mentally ready for that challenge.
Yeah, big moment, big high stakes moment, and a not a cool take there from Orbelin. I mean, it is what it is, man. 1-0 loss to Venezuela. Any other points you want to discuss here, man?
Yes, sir. I want to take the last maybe minute or two to send a very heartfelt and direct message to Jimmy Lozano. I'm gonna do it in Spanish so he can understand me, and has no questions about what I'm going to say. So if you allow me, give me the chance. I have some words for him. All right, Jimmy, querido Jimmy. Hoy, oficialmente, yo me bajo del Lamborghini. La derrota contra Venezuela me ha dejado muy claro un par de cosas. Y la primera, que no es sorpresa, es que México está pasando por una crisis de talento que no habíamos tenido por mucho tiempo. Y la segunda es que tú, Jimmy Lozano, estás en un puesto que desafortunadamente te queda muy grande. Ha pasado ya un poco más de un año desde que tomaste el equipo y continúas sin tener una identidad, sin tener una idea clara de lo que juega, careces de planeación. Y lo más preocupante para mí es que tú, Jimmy, tú sabes que ante la adversidad no logras encontrar respuestas. Volteas a tu banca y tus asistentes no saben qué decirte, porque al igual que tú, carecen de experiencia. Y mucho menos los jugadores que tienes a tu disposición. En otras palabras, tú solito, Jimmy, tú solo cavaste tu tumba. Y sé que eres consciente de que muy posiblemente no tienes la preparación para ser el técnico de la selección mexicana. Y sé que te sientes capaz de hacer un buen trabajo, porque como cualquier otra persona, así nos sentimos. Pero esta noche ha quedado demostrado que así como nos pasa a todos, a la gente común, como tú y como yo, es que a veces al principio de nuestras carreras estamos muy verdes para el puesto. Yo te pido por tu bien y por el bien de México que te hagas a un lado, que continúes tu camino lejos de la selección mexicana y que ojalá en un futuro, no muy lejano, vuelvas y puedas entregar los resultados que hoy tu mente quiere dar, pero que lamentablemente no vas a poder alcanzar. Gracias, Jimmy, pero lárgate ya.
Las palabras del tocayo Adrián Cruz hacia Jaime Lozano desde el fondo de su corazón. Adrián, deep words, man.
I know. It is what it is, man.
Had to be said.
It had to. I've been with Jimmy Lozano since day one, but today I can't take this anymore, dude. It is what it is.
If you are with Adrian here, Team Adrian Tocayo here on this situation, let us know in the comments below. Do you think it's time the post has outgrown Jimmy, or was he never big enough for a position like this? Let us know in the comments. Definitely like interacting with you guys. Adrian, man, as we wrap up this defeated, hard to do episode after a the first loss against Venezuela. I mean, how the mighty have fallen, right? Where can our listeners find us, dude?
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok. We post memes, latest news, and short clips of our episodes.
Yeah, so follow us. And again, let us know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on this match? And do you see Mexico advancing? If so, they might be playing Argentina. So what are your thoughts on that? Let us know in the comments below. Adrian, let's see. Tomorrow we'll be watching USA Panama, hoping for a better result. But see you next one, brother.
Take it easy, my friend. Always a pleasure.
See ya.